Well, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this evening's webinar, Entrepreneurship During COVID-19. Before we begin, I'd like to remind our viewers to please take a moment to mute your audio and turn off your video during the presentation just to help our speakers avoid any distractions. Thank you in advance for doing that. This webinar was created in mind of ducks who are considering blazing their own trail as an entrepreneur, but aren't sure of what it might look like in an uncertain economy. It's also an opportunity for those of you who currently own or have owned your own businesses to learn from fellow ducks about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship that they experienced, lessons learned throughout the process of building a business, and how they are adapting to the new realities surrounding COVID-19. And now I'd like to introduce to you our panel, starting with our moderator for tonight, Nathan Lilligard. Nathan received his MBA from the UO in 2006 and currently serves as a program manager at the UO's Lundquist Center for Entrepreneurship. Nathan was also the founding CEO of Florogenics, a genomics research company based on technology that was actually developed at the University of Oregon. Emily Motter received her Bachelor's of Education in 2004 and is the co-owner of the Portland Bottle Shop, managing the shop's accounting, marketing, and strategic business planning. And lastly, we have Jesse Thomas, a 2009 MBA graduate, former pro triathlete, and CEO and co-founder of Picky Bars. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nathan to go over our agenda for this evening and begin our program.
Sure, thank you, Megan. So this will be a bit of a discussion amongst those panelists here this evening for probably 20 or 30 minutes to get going. I'll ask some questions, give Emily and Jesse chances to chime in, and we'll talk about some of the issues that we've all faced as entrepreneurs. And then we will open it up for questions from the viewers. And submitting the questions, please make sure you do that into the chat box. Megan will be monitoring that, and she will relay those to me, and we'll pick out the questions that we want to address and get to those in due time. So without further ado, I think we'll get started with our first set of questions. And this is actually, to both Emily and Jesse. We'll let ladies go first here. But Emily, how did you go from Bachelor's of Education in 2004 to opening your own bottle shop in 2009?
Well, great question. So my education at U of O actually had a lot to do with it. So I decided to major in education at U of O because I actually didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career. I had worked with kids a lot as a teenager, and so just kind of figured I'd be a teacher because I didn't really know what else to do. So I started in the education program, and my first class in the program, the professor, Dan Close, said, I know a lot of you are here because you want to be teachers, but there's a lot of things you can do in the education and nonprofit world, helping families and individuals and kids in the community that you may not know about. So if you're actually not sure what you want to do, go out and volunteer. So some of the best advice I was ever given. So that day I went home and researched nonprofits in the Eugene area and actually signed up to volunteer at a child abuse prevention organization called the Relief Nursery, and started volunteering there and did pretty much anything they needed me to do. So I volunteered in the classroom, I drove the bus, I worked in the administrative offices, helped with fundraising and planning events, got a really great variety of experience there, and then was accepted into the Family and Human Services program in the College of Education, and that required additional internship opportunities. So I decided to do something totally different to get more experience. So I volunteered and did an internship in the district attorney's office, helping victims of crime that were going through court cases, and then did an internship with the Eugene Parks and Recreation, working with young adults with developmental disabilities, teenagers with developmental disabilities. So I got this incredible variety of experience, and through all of that learned that direct service wasn't actually where my passion was. I really liked the business side of things and the administrative work that went into making all these nonprofits do the great things that they did. So I graduated and started my career at the Relief Nursery as a volunteer coordinator. And not long after that, met my husband, who had spent his career in the wine and restaurant industry. And he had this incredible idea for a business that he had wanted to do for a really long time, but just didn't know how to make that business into a reality. So when we got married, he was kind of at a turning point in his career, and we went on our honeymoon to Spain, and we're surrounded by these amazing wine shops everywhere, and decided at that time that when we got back, we were going to pursue opening our own business and working together to do that, taking his incredible plan and experience and my kind of business experience and putting those together. And so 2 years after that, it took to write the business plan and find the space and get the loan and do all the things. We opened the bottle shop in 2011. And so it was predominantly retail at that time with a small food menu and glass pour selection. And then in 2016, we expanded into a full restaurant, adding a kitchen and tripling in staff. And that's where we are today.
Cool, thanks. Thanks. You turned your husband's dream and a honeymoon, probably crazy idea into the real deal. So that's hard to do. That's like serious commitment to start from like there all the way. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Jesse, how did the world of picky bars come to be?
It was a similar story, I guess, similar-ish. I guess like a little bit of background on myself because it's relevant to starting picky bars. So my wife and I met on the Stanford cross country team when we were, I was, I guess, 19, she was 18. We were both athletes there. She was a much better athlete than I was. And we dated on again, off again, mostly off again for about 7 years, and reconnected kind of in my late 20s back. We got engaged and we moved to Eugene. So that kind of starts the whole thing. Lauren was a professional runner at the time, a very accomplished, like national champion professional runner. I was had just finished business school at University of Oregon, had been a runner in college, and then had worked at a tech startup for about 5 years prior to going to business school, and then spent 2 years at U of O in business school. And it was right at the time, it was nothing's the same as now, but it was similar-ish to now, in that it was basically right at the time when the economy was collapsing. I graduated with a brand new MBA in the summer of 2009, weeks after hundreds of thousands of MBAs had been laid off by all the major financial institutions in the world. And was basically like, what do I want to do? And through a kind of a weird, ironically, listening to this book called I have to remember the name of it. It was The Anti-Career Guide by Rick Jarrow. So if anybody's looking for this, it's this weird book, a little foofy for my taste. But anyway, I listened to this thing about what do you want to do? And I basically decided that if I wasn't going to make any money because there was no money to be made, I may as well do something that I love doing. And that ended up being triathlon. And I started training for triathlon as kind of like a second athletic career. In the process of doing that, I was eating 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day and having a whole bunch of stomach problems as a result that my wife really didn't enjoy around the house at all. And so she became highly incentivized to try to create a food for me that was fuel that wouldn't upset my stomach. And that was the whole impetus for creating the original Picky Bar, was making something that was, we were picky about the ingredients and about the nutritional profile and then about the taste, basically. And yeah, we messed around with Lauren, really, and Steph, our other Lauren's friend and our other co-founder, messed around with ingredients in our home kitchen in Chase Village, right across the street, more or less from U of O or from Autzen, and that was it. We started like a lot of these food businesses start. Lauren and Steph started making energy bars, and they were selling them to their friends in like little local running groups. More and more people wanted to buy them, and then Lauren was a prominent enough figure in the sport that she had fans at that time, and it was right kind of a couple years into when Twitter had just launched and like the early social media days. So she had people inquiring about on social media, more or less, that they had heard that Lauren had an energy bar, and so we put up a website and started selling them then, and it grew, organically, no pun intended, from then on. And yeah, but it's a crazy time, and then my triathlon career kind of took off at the same time too, and it's been a very tiring 10 years since then.
But you recently retired from the triathlon gig, so you can focus in on this whole CEO thing.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Literally the 2010 to 2008, which is when I finished my triathlon career, was, just there were way too many things on my plate. But yeah, it was good. It was a wild ride. I would do it again, but it was a lot of work. Yeah.
It's sort of the classic entrepreneurial thing, right? Like no entrepreneur can like just do one thing, right?
Well, there were two things that like just kind of had their own life that were simultaneous, but ironically, when we started Picky Bars, I had just finished an MBA at University of Oregon, and we did absolutely no business planning whatsoever. It was just one of those things where both things were kind of like these side projects that we didn't really know what was going to become of them. And then eventually they became bigger.
Yep. And Emily, you keep other things going as you're doing the bottle shop, right? You've kept some other engagements going with your career because,
Yep.
That's what you got to do.
Yes, I have continued to work full-time in the nonprofit world at the same time as our business. We have 2 small kids also as well. And then 3 years ago, we didn't think we had enough going on, so we started a wine tasting festival. So
why not?
Because why not?
Because why not? Why not? Cool. What's our next question, Megan? All right. How are things different or the same as the owner? So you guys both started things in like the 2008, 2009 timeframe, right? Started thinking about the world and how, what's the opportunity look like? And sort of the question being, how are things different or the same? How have they changed for you in the last, let's say, 3 to 4 months? Emily, you run a food service business. Tell us a little bit about that. And then Jesse, you're a direct consumer brand. So that's probably got its own unique challenges, but how's that going, Emily? I think that's something that probably lots of people tuned in are interested to hear about. What's life like as a restaurant owner?
Yeah, I would say, you're always, as a business owner, I'm sure Jesse's in the same boat, that, you're always have to be aware of things that are changing, whether it's the economy or the industry. So I would say that is the same, that you always have to be on your toes and be ready to change and evolve. I don't think you could get more of an extreme situation than this. So things are different in the way that the whole world has changed. And, we really had to, there was no rule book for this. There was no really clear direction for business owners on this. It was different across the board. And so just I think you throw all of the kind of logistical challenges of a restaurant in, but then you've got, the emotions that are a part of it. And, our business is really based on our relationships with our customers. People come in and spend hours at the shop. We've had weddings and retirement parties and anniversary parties and birthdays. We know our customers. We've watched them have families and grow and change, and that's all gone right now. And I shouldn't say it's all gone, because I think it's why we've really are fortunate to continue and still be open, is that we have those relationships with our customers, but we can't interact with them now. They can't come into the shop and hang out with us after they've had something really exciting happen or really challenging happen. We can't sit and talk to them about, wine for hours. People would come in and sit and talk with my husband for hours about the different kinds of wines and trips they've been on. And so just the emotional aspect of it, I think, has been really challenging. Everybody's stressed and, kind of worried. So we feel that with both of our staff and our customers. So just kind of some of those big picture things, and then all the way down to the logistics of how we're running our business on a day-to-day basis, because it's changing sometimes literally every day. I mean, at the beginning, it was changing every day. And so just being able to, again, evolve and kind of flow with those changes. And, we set out with a business model at the beginning of all of this during a difficult economic time, which I think, it has its challenges, but it's been really beneficial to have both retail and restaurant sales. So I think, again, just kind of being able to evolve and move with the changes, no matter what they are, big and small. So it's a great time.
Cool. And Jesse, I know, full disclosure, I'm a customer. How has your community helped the Picky Bars as you've gone through this pandemic, and then how has that affected, your company?
Well, the community is, our community is everything, right? I guess any business's customers are kind of everything, but yeah, we've been really fortunate to be, I guess, I hate to even use the term, but well positioned for COVID. I think COVID is clearly a net negative, by a long shot. But our business being primarily direct to consumer has been in a spot where it's overall, we're probably getting a net lift from people being forced to buy more online than they could prior to COVID. What's been interesting, and then not necessarily related to just people being online more, but a fundamental piece of our business model, and has been for a long time, really since late 2011, a year in, is our Picky Club subscription service. And so that's been also, I think, a really key part to us maintaining, I guess, a foundation of normalcy in spite of many different things that have happened to the business, including COVID. And the more people that we've had, Nathan, you are a customer, you're in the Picky Club, the more people that we have in that, the more we kind of have, revenue that we can kind of count on, that is regardless of COVID happening, which could mean, REI, dropping us from the store, which they did. That's been the biggest negative thing that's happened so far. REI dropped us because they dropped about 50% of their nutrition brands, because they had to get rid of 40% of their nutrition space to make enough space for people to walk through, right? And so we've had we have this underlying thing. We've had other big buyers take us on and leave us off. And so long story short, that Picky Club thing has been huge. And then just us, we've always been a primarily direct to consumer business, and we have expanded some in retail, like I said, in REI and Whole Foods, Pacific Northwest, a fair number of places in the Pacific Northwest, natural grocery places. But we've always kind of been focused on direct to consumer. And what this year has really done for us is like, just even like focused that focus, I guess, because the retail world has been so wonky for us. Everything from, Fleet Feets and REIs and like specialty stores just being completely shut down, gone, like that business going to zero, to grocery stores doing these crazy panic buys when people were coming in and like stocking up their pantry, to then like that falling off a cliff. And then the direct to consumer has been the most consistent thing for us, so that we've been really lucky to be in a spot where we could do that, where we weren't trying to put like systems in place to do that. And that's the only other thing I'll add on. Has been like the biggest difference maker for us, is that we don't necessarily own our entire supply chain. We still use contract manufacturers to produce our products. But what we do own, which has been a huge benefit to us in this environment, is our own fulfillment operation. And so we ship out, I think last month we shipped out, it was a big month for us. It was like 10,000 packages from our fulfillment center here in Bend. We're not relying on like a contracted fulfillment center or Amazon or whatever, who have had a bunch of problems because they have, for whatever reasons, they have too many people in the space and they need to cut it out. We've been able to like spread our people out, and so far keep everyone safe and keep packages going out the door. And that's been a huge part for us as well. And those have been the main things that have changed. We have everybody, the office staff is working, any office staff that can work from home is working from home. And then all the fulfillment people are in here, the warehouse staff, but then they're spread out all over our warehouse. And then they're coming in shifts to make sure that they're, not on top of each other, Yeah.
And add to that, you recently moved locations, right? So we were so lucky. We moved into this new warehouse that basically has enabled us to do that literally like 2 or 3 days before the state shut down. And it was just really lucky time. I mean, my biggest lesson from the whole, COVID thing on a business side is, what we've said already. You have to be able to be as flexible as you possibly can. But then also, so much of it is just luck, and you like to think that like, oh, we were really smart. We made this move and that move and whatever else. And like that positioned us for us. But that's like a bunch of BS. Like, we're just lucky. It could have been some other thing where there was, the internet went out or something, and then, 80% of our business is gone. And so it's just it's a crazy time trying to navigate all these things, I guess. No doubt about that. These are times, sometimes I'm very happy I'm not still an entrepreneur, but I miss the energy of it. Emily, what are some of the things that you see like in front of you that like you're anticipating coming up in terms of like managing the growth of your business and how you might need to adapt further?
Yeah. I would say kind of the same thing with Jesse, is that, we were really lucky that we were able to kind of evolve and adapt as quickly as we could. Our menu is one of the biggest things that changed. So our retail wine and beer selection is large and will always be that way. And it kind of runs as a warehouse now instead of, people coming in and shopping the shelves themselves. But we were able to change, our menu was predominantly shared plates and charcuterie boards for people to come in and sit and have a glass of wine and be together, sharing, whatever they got. And then we had about 5 sandwiches. But my husband has always wanted to increase our sandwich menu, and this was the opportunity to do it. And it kind of was like, okay, he's got this incredible plan for, cheese steaks and, adding all these East Coast sandwiches that he loved growing up, because he's from the East Coast. And so he's always kind of had this in the back of his mind that he wanted to evolve our menu into adding all these sandwiches, and now was the time to do it. So I would say the thing that we're kind of looking at the most now, and now that we've kind of got our systems dialed in, we've got the menu dialed in, we've brought in every single staff person back that wanted to come back, which has been really exciting, and are actually bringing on a few new staff members, is really getting out beyond kind of where our normal marketing channels are. And there's unfortunately a lot of restaurants in Portland, which was, a really competitive restaurant market, and there's a lot that have closed and made the decision to not move forward. And so I think marketing to a wider audience is going to be really important moving forward, and we're working on that plan right now. And what that looks like, just with being the Portland Bottle Shop, a lot of people don't know that we have a really great food menu. So that's kind of the challenges moving forward. And then just kind of the uncertainty of what the restaurant industry is going to look like in the next few weeks and months. Like, are we going to be able to keep our outside seating opened? Kind of hard to even think about the fall and what we're going to do when it starts raining again. So it's, you plan as much ahead as you can, but also just not trying to get too far ahead of yourself, and just kind of, doing what we can to keep our really loyal customers engaged and coming back, and again, expanding on our customer base at this time, which is a really weird time. Now we've gone from like a really competitive restaurant scene in Portland to a really, everybody's paying attention to the news a lot, but it's kind of hard to get people's attention because they're paying attention to, kind of the big things that are going on in our world right now. So just how do you get people's attention in a way that works and that's kind of meeting them where they want to be. So lots to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of balancing to be had in the messaging and the communication, and like trying to fit in with the other stuff that people are dealing with. And that runs the gamut from, social and cultural issues to like literal like personal health issues. So
yeah, people want to know, and every customer interaction is important and means a lot to us, and we want to meet customers where they are. So if somebody's like, I don't want to come up to the window, I want to pay over the phone, I'm going to pop my trunk and I want you to put the wine and the food back, and I don't want to be close to you. And then we have other people that are at the door going, can I come in yet? Like, why can't I come in and hang out? So yeah, it's being really, really sensitive to that, and with our staff as well, and what they're comfortable with. So yeah, a crazy time.
Cool. There's a kind of a question for later, but I thought I'd bring it up now. It kind of makes sense. Both of you are in business with your spouses. And so that means, you've got lots of other things that are going on in your lives together. The question is really, let's see, where did it go? The question is from a woman named Maureen Warman, how many hours do you and your partners typically work? And I think I always got a saying from my predecessor in this position. He said, being an entrepreneur is great. You can work any 100 hours a week you want. So if you want to take Tuesday afternoon off, no big deal. But how many, how's the workload, and how do you do work-life balance? And, Emily, and then I know Jesse, you and Lauren actually have your podcast about this stuff that you talk about. But, how's that going? Especially now with, you're all family units are, really tight and close knit right now.
Do you want me to go first, or is it Emily?
Go for it, man.
It's a total circus right now. It's really hard. Yes, Lauren and I founded the company together. We worked together. And we have survived it, and we're still married happily. At least from my perspective. You'd have to get her perspective to know for sure. But I honestly, probably, if I'm totally honest, wouldn't recommend it to anyone. If I'm just being totally honest, it's a lot to balance, and Lauren and I have really had to put in a lot of work to make sure that we both feel like the balance of communication around our relationship and our kids and our business is in a place that we feel comfortable with consistently, and that it's not getting dominated by one or the other. And that's obviously evolved as we had kids and as the business has evolved, and lots of different things. So yeah, it's been a lot of work. And I think the key, just like in any relationship really, and in any relationship that's in a super dynamic environment, is just like lots and lots of communication, because there's no like great plan that's going to get you through anything. It's just about being open with each other and adapting to each other's needs as they are presented to you in the best way that you can, while still respecting your own needs. So it's a lot of negotiation and work.
How about you guys, Emily? You got the front of the house, and it sounds like your husband's more back of the house, kitchen menu guy.
He's all things day-to-day operations. So he's front of the house, he's back of the house, he's creating the menu, he's kind of doing all that. And I'm the marketing, books, behind the scenes. And a lot of the similar things that Jesse said, it's balance, it's communication, it's same with, evolving as a business and as a family. I would say that we're really lucky. We are really good. We're a really good team. He's got strengths that I don't. And in all honesty, he's the one who told me what wine to recommend to whoever asked about wine recommendations. That's not my strength, and I know that. And he knows that, marketing and the behind the scenes books and kind of that stuff aren't kind of what he loves to do. And so we actually are a really good team when it comes to how we come together as business owners. And I remember when we were trying to open, those 2 years have a whole story in of themselves of trying to get open. But it was like every time he'd be like, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'd be like, no, okay, we're so close. We're going to do this. And then I'd come home the next day and be like, okay, I'm done, not doing this anymore. And he'd be like, no, we're going to do this. So I think we've been really fortunate. It's hard. The balance is hard. And we've had to, work to set aside time, because if you don't, you're up until 11 o'clock talking about business stuff, which you don't need to be doing. And yeah, it's just constant work, which I think it would be with any business partner. But I feel really fortunate that he and I are a good team, and it's worked out. And now, it's like kind of crazy with our kids. Like, they don't know life without the Portland Bottle Shop. They've been raised there. We have, they took naps in the office on snow days. They played on the computer when we didn't have enough staff. So I was down there trying to do dishes and help. So it's a big part of who we are as a family. It is who we are. A lot of the people in the neighborhood know us through that. So it's pretty cool. I feel pretty honored that it's worked out that way.
Yeah, that's it's a sign of a healthy relationship on so many levels that it's hard to pinpoint just one thing that makes it work. But
and not every day is easy, so I'm not saying it's
no. What? Not every day being married is easy? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
It's craziness. Megan, we had, I think, maybe one more question on a slide that you wanted to get to. How can you small business owners thrive and survive? I think we've covered some of that, but do you guys have any sort of nugget tips that you could give to someone if someone asks you, like, hey, what's your key to success? What do you tell them?
I'll jump in real quick. We already talked about I had 2 things written down. One of them was just like iteration, or like pivoting, basically. And we've talked a lot about that with everything but just being open to changing the plan in the face of new information that comes up. That I think is really, I think the key to success in business is more about like how fast you iterate, as opposed to like how good your plan is. And then the other thing that I wish that had been kind of I think people told me, but I wish somebody had really just kind of smacked it into my head, was just not being afraid to reach out for help. And I think that I think with the internet and, the kind of endless access to information at your fingertips, people don't just reach out or seek people to get their advice. And, people that have been through this before, and information and experience is so much richer person to person, and now, Zoom person to Zoom person or whatever, over the phone or whatever it is. But I rely now I technically have 10 years of experience running picky bars, and let's say 17 years of experience kind of as a young professional. And I utilize advisors so much more now than I did in my early, late 20s and my early 30s. And I just wish that I had been more aware of that when I was younger, and less afraid to reach out to people for help and for advice. So
yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think that's one thing I see is in students that I teach and young entrepreneurs I talk with all the time is, they'll go and seek information on, they'll Google it and come back with a whole bunch of articles about different stuff. It's like, sometimes you can get to the point and get to the value you need and get the answer you need much faster if you just talk with someone who's been there and done that. Right. So, it's a big help with that. And then one of the questions that came through from one of the participants here was about the business plan. Like, how did you prepare to take the next step after you're completing your business plan? And I think, Jesse, you said it perfectly, right? It's not about, you didn't do much of a business plan. You just kind of got to put it out there and start to react and iterate and pivot, and based on what you learn, right? You can't plan for all the things that are going to come up. Now, Emily, you talked about, you had a 2-year sort of incubation process to actually get a location and do all that stuff. So, what did you find? My question would be, what did you find was like absolutely wrong in your business plan that you thought would go one way and went another?
Honestly, our business plan was pretty spot on, but we worked on it for 2 years, and I would say the same thing that Jesse said. I wish I would have had I wish I would have reached out and had a business owner to ask questions and to kind of be a mentor through the process. We got back from our honeymoon, and I got online and started doing research, exactly like Jesse said, and actually found the Small Business Administration, I can't remember what, I'm blanking on the name now, but they have a business advising component through the Small Business Administration. So I got online, did the research, and they said, okay, yeah, you can get an advisor, but you have to go through these 4 business classes to do it first. Well, basically the 4 classes were like telling you for several hours that you're not going to succeed and you're not going to get a loan and it's going to be really hard. And it was like, this is kind of weird. But once we finally got to an advisor, he was fantastic. And he was a really huge help in writing our business plan, because we had to get a loan from the bank, and no loan officer in 2010 was going to talk to you without a business plan. And it had to be really specific to what they wanted to see, and the financials had to be really specific. And the advisor that we were linked up with actually helped us get some of those bank loans, because lenders didn't want to talk to anybody that wanted to open a restaurant in 2010 because it was too risky. So we spent a lot of time on our business plan and talk about our relationship challenge every night. My husband would make dinner. He's also the cook in the family. And I would sit there and interview him and be like, okay, on a Tuesday in February, how many glasses of wine do you think we're going to sell? And on a Saturday in June, how many glasses of wine are we going to sell? And we would go through this over and over and over and over again. So we spent a ton of time writing the business plan, and kind of thinking of everything that could go wrong, having just kind of every single detail in place. So our business did follow pretty closely to what our plan was. But again, in the time and the environment we were in, we didn't have a choice. Because again, to get a bank to talk to us, that was what we had to do.
Yeah, that's the, I would guess you went through the Small Business Development Center. Is that right?
Yes.
Sound about right?
Yes.
So yeah, those are great resources to help people get off the ground.
It was, and it was, and I shouldn't say that about freaking you out, but it was kind of like, it's going to be hard. And the classes were kind of like a reality check of like, you come in with this like, okay, I'm ready, we're going to open a business. And it's like, okay, we've got some planning and thinking and work to do before that's going to happen.
True, cool. So how can the duck community support you guys? How can we help?
Go to pickybars.com. There's this little button that says join the Picky Club. That would be a great start. Besides that, yeah, I mean, just you know, telling your friends about it, and then also I'm a very data oriented person. I love analysis and feedback. So if there's thoughts that you have on our business or things that we could improve, and you know, products or whatever, that type of stuff is great. You know, I'm always open to feedback. So
cool. And
yeah.
one question we've got from outside, Jesse, is how the Picky Bars name where did it come from? And I think you addressed that already, but maybe just
Yeah, I mean, the quick of it was we you know, we were kind of picky about the ingredients and the nutrition profile, and you know, and the taste. And I don't remember who said it. People have asked me that so many times. I do remember Steph, Lauren, and I sitting. I do remember the moment that it was determined, as we were sitting in our kitchen at Chase Village. And somebody was just like, Picky Bars. And I was like, oh, Picky Bars, yeah, that sounds cool. And then I had the one smart thing that I did was I did a trademark search on it. And that was my one thing that I knew how to do. And it turned out that nobody had ever used the term Picky Bars, or at least applied for a trademark on it. And so and I bought the domain on GoDaddy. And then that was it. That was pickybars.com.
Away you go. One domain and a trademark and you're set.
Yeah. Ironically, an interesting side story. I did end up buying pickybar.com, which we you know, but just as a weird like side note, but I always felt like Picky Bar, like people might think that it was a bar, like a place where you go and drink, you know? And but it's interesting because I didn't really do any other research, but when you look at all the other, like all the major kind of competitors to us, most of them just say bar, like Cliff Bar, RX Bar, Kind Bar. It's not like bars. So anyway, weird thing. For whatever reason, we're sticking with Picky Bars for now. It's an extra letter, but that's okay.
That's all right. It's different, right?
Yeah.
And you get to roll it into oatmeal and other products, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, Emily, how about how can the duck community support you other than coming to buy wine and beer, which is always a good thing? How else can we help?
I would say that's the main thing right now is come try our new sandwiches. They're awesome. I know I'm totally biased, but they're really, really good. Yeah, I mean, I think just same thing as Jesse said. If there's things that we can do differently, you know, we've kind of tried to evolve. At the beginning, we were doing delivery. We were utilizing staff members, our staff, to do food delivery to, you know, bring them back. But we realized that people wanted an excuse to go out. So that, you know, so we're kind of constantly evolving to try and, you know, meet what the consumers want, what our customers want, what the community wants. So if there's things we can do differently, let us know. But come check out our wine and beer selection. We have it online, menus online, and yeah, we just appreciate everybody's continued support through all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So advice time off the slide. Someone comes up to you and says, you know, I'm thinking about starting my own business. I want to open a restaurant, or I want to start a food brand. You know, what advice do you have for others? You know, do you see this time of change as an opportunity, or, you know, how would you look at it if you in your wisdom that you've developed now over, the time you've been doing this, what do you think? What advice would you have for others? Jesse?
I think there's a huge opportunity. Every economic crisis leads to new businesses, because businesses falter under it, and that creates a void of opportunity, and also consumer. The thing that has been most illuminated to me is like what a tide of consumer shift can do to a market, right? Like what happened to us, or what happened to e-commerce in general, they say, the guys that say this, is that we went from 2020 e-commerce kind of saturation levels, in terms of the number of people that are buying stuff online, to like 2035 over the course of like a few months. It was like twice the number of people were buying stuff online. They were buying twice as much stuff. And so right in there, you can see there's like tons of opportunity. All of a sudden, there's way more people online buying stuff. There could be opportunities in that. So I think and then the other thing that I love about starting a business now is that the risk, depending on how you start it, the risk can be relatively low, right? Like Emily and I have risks with our business because we have established businesses. We have overhead that we're like responsible to, that like things can erode fast when the environment changes, and then the business can collapse under its own weight. When you're like a brand new business, you can kind of try stuff out, and it doesn't really like cost you anything, because you don't really have a lot there trying to prop it up anyway. And so I think it's just a great time for people to be toying with new ideas and seeing what new demands are out there, like just paying attention and seeing if there's opportunities. So that's what I would do. I don't know what advice I'd have for you other than just kind of being out there, like I said, not being available, or being able to pivot, and like I said from other stuff, like just listening to people, learn from people, see what other people have done.
Right. Listening to, just sensing the environment, being humble and taking a lot of feedback. I think that's one of the key things, right? Is being able to take positive and negative feedback and listen to it, and then make sense of it as you hear it all, and sort of, prioritize what people tell you, right? Because there's always going to be good reviews and bad reviews, and happy people and unhappy people, but just
and iterate. Actually, like as a super quick aside story that's relevant to this question, when we started Picky Bars, we were originally, we really leaned into the word picky. We were like, okay, well, this is really going to be picky. We're going to be super picky about the ingredients and everything. And then we kind of thought to start that we would make custom energy bars for people. And that was the original model, was you would submit an order to us online where you wanted walnuts but no almonds, and you wanted sunflower butter and chocolate chips or whatever, and then we would produce that and send that to you. And that at the beginning was a super cool idea, and that I still think is a cool idea. But as we iterated on it and started doing it, we just realized like pretty quickly how really hard that was to scale to any amount. But then it led us to what we're doing now, and so I guess just being open to what comes down the road in terms of feedback and stuff. It's good.
Cool. How about you, Emily? I want to start a bottle shop. What do you want to tell me?
Do your homework. I mean, we've like I said, we spent a lot of time on our business plan and researching competitors and what the industry was like, and we had to find our niche in not only the structure of our business, but also location, again, with Portland being a really competitive market, you know, we didn't want to open down the street from another wine shop. And so, I mean, do your homework. I think that really paid off for us. And then just same as Jesse said, don't be afraid to evolve and make changes. Things aren't always going to end up as you thought they were. They're going to shift and change through the process. But I think the main thing is to not give up. There's going to be people through the process that are going to tell you you're not going to succeed and that you can't do it. And that's hard to hear. But if you believe in your plan and what you know you want to do and you can see the vision, then don't give up. Just keep going. On the days that you want to give up, just put the plan down and don't think about it for a little while. Go for a run, have a picky bar,
Yeah, there you
a
go.
bottle shop sandwich, and then pick it up the next day, because it's frustrating and it's hard and there's a lot of obstacles along the way, but you can do it. Lots of people have, and yeah, I think don't give up.
Cool. We've had some questions come in from other folks. I've got one that I always like to kind of wrap up with for entrepreneurs, and that's sort of what's your, you've gone through the process of building a business plan, you've had a vision, you kept executing, you're working on it now. What's your end state of this? Is, is the Portland Bottle Shop, 40 years from now, is Emily sitting at the door doing her thing that she's, and still doing what you're doing, or what's your next gig? And Jesse, I know you're growing your business in different ways. So what's the end goal for you guys as you think about this now for the next 10 years?
Yeah, we were in the midst of looking at another location. So our goal is to have more locations, and kind of again, wanting to be smart about the decisions that we make. Just like Jesse said, when you start, you don't have anything to lose, and now we do. So and then you throw COVID in, location's going to be key. It's sad to see some of the areas of the city where businesses are going to struggle to reopen. So being thoughtful about that and that process, again, there's just a lot more consideration to take now to open another location. But we were in that process, and like Jesse said, there's opportunity now. So ideally we'll have, I don't know if my husband wants to hear this, but a couple more bottle shop locations would be pretty cool. So that's my vision.
Yeah, that's a good solid business. I think one of the things that you get in teaching is people have these grand ideas of massive scale of companies, and 2 or 3 locations is a fantastic little business that supports your family and keeps you engaged with customers and helps you build a community, and that's awesome, right? And that's a good life, and you're making a contribution to your community. And sometimes the exit or the grand plan can just be to do it well and keep doing it and build a community that people care about. So
and that's what we've wanted to do. And our 7-year-old son already works at the shop. He actually worked on Sunday with my husband for a few hours. So I see a next generation potentially in the bottle shop, which would be pretty cool. That would be cool. Pretty amazing accomplishment.
That would be cool. How about you, Jesse?
Just as a quick follow-on to that comment, randomly, Lauren told me this was like a few months ago. She was hanging out with Jude, my six-year-old son, and Jude just popped up randomly out of whatever he was doing, and he said, Mom, I know what I can do when Dad dies. She was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I could run picky bars. So anyway, random aside, just made me think of that. That's not necessarily my plan, our plan. It might be Jude's plan. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the answer to this question has pivoted a bit for us in the last 6 to 12 months. I think that as we said at the beginning, I just finished racing professionally and now have been working on the business full time. I absolutely love picky bars. It is like my baby. And it's, I would say, become more of my baby than like Lauren's, even since I've been working on it as the primary operator for the last like 5 to 7 years. But it's also really stressful and a lot of work and a lot of financial risk to us as a family. And we went through a really scary time in the business in 2018 where we had a big supply chain snafu that put us out of stock for about 2 months, and where the business lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Lauren and I still own it with Steph ourselves, and we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to inject into a business when that happens. And we survived that, and we're back and we're doing well now. We're kind of digging back out of it, or have dug mostly back out of it. But that was scary. And I think that process and then me working on it full time now has led us to this path of like, hey, we do think we want to build this into something really great, but then take the financial weight of it off of our shoulders as a family. And that doesn't mean like, have a huge financial exit. That really means for us, like, not being susceptible to the financial ups and downs of the business. And my vision for what that is now is over the next 3 to 4 years, try to build Picky Bars into a $15 million business. We're at about 4 now. And then get it to a point where we can have the right person or like group come in and take over the primary financial responsibility of it. My vision or hope or goal would be that's somebody that sees the value in the brand and the business being in Bend, because it's in Bend now, and that's my hometown. And that to me is like the coolest legacy that I could leave as an individual, would be this cool business that's in Bend. And there is some precedent for that in Bend with 10 Barrel and Hydro Flask and some other kind of acquisitions that have come in. And so that's kind of how we're positioning it now. Still very much in it for the next phase, but hoping to get to the point where we can take a step out to kind of reduce some of the risk to us and kind of have it be its own thing also. So we're in the process right now of raising our first our first investment round to do that, which is an exciting next step for me professionally, and exciting next challenge. So
cool. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, one of our shared instructors at the MBA, would say, just build a business to build a business to make a great business, and then opportunities to exit and change and grow come along, right?
Totally. Yeah,
and focus on doing the thing.
Totally. I mean, and realistically, like the business still needs to grow just to be healthier and to be less susceptible to risk, by itself. And so like it's kind of like both. To a certain extent, almost regardless of what your grand exit plan is, the path is similar-ish. And so we're kind of just locking into that path right now. So
yep. It's a journey, and it's like parenthood and marriage and it's all wrapped up in one, right? It's just you keep chugging along, and every day is another adventure. And thank you guys for your time and insights on all this with, in a very unique situation. I mean, this would be a really good conversation with or without a public health pandemic. So, it's great to see, from my perspective at the Entrepreneurship Center at the university, right? You don't have to have an MBA to build a business. It can be helpful as you move along the process. But, Emily, with your work and finding out in the early stages of your career, like what you didn't want to do is almost more important than figuring out what you want to do, right? Like you tried a few things and then you zeroed in on the things you're good at, which you say match up really well with your husband. And now you've got a thriving community business. That's awesome, right? So hopefully all the ducks watching and those who see this in the future will, know the Portland Bottle Shop is a place to go down and grab a bottle of wine and a sandwich to go, or knock on wood, hopefully very soon, spend an evening drinking wine.
I hope so.
Which, in the summertime should be an amazing experience. Hopefully we all get to do some of that. And Jesse, your business moving along from, direct consumer and being in stores and now not being in as many stores, and you got oatmeal, you've got spreads, you've got all sorts of stuff that, the picky empire is still young, right? So Jude will be, apparently he'll be running the whole show, which he kind of probably is already.
Packing boxes. He's not even packing boxes yet. He's taping boxes, but he does like it. He is really annoying to the rest of my fulfillment staff though, because all he does, he just talks and talks and talks. And never stops asking questions.
Yeah. Emily and I don't know any 6 or 7-year-olds like that. Right? So awesome. Well, I think that's, we've covered the questions and that's about our time. Megan, is that?
Yeah, it's about that time. Before we close out, I just wanted to quickly thank you, Nathan, for being our moderator for tonight. I loved hearing the stories told by Jesse and Emily. Before we close out and I leave with some last remarks, I do want to put one thing out there for all of you tuning in. Mark your calendar for an Entrepreneurs Networking Hour. This is a live web chat event coming up on August 20th from 5 to 6 Pacific time. Details are going to be coming soon through an email. So everyone watching tonight will receive that email invite. But basically, this is a text-based chat platform that will allow you to connect with duck entrepreneurs across the globe. It's going to be fantastic. So details coming soon.
Cool. And you never know where your entrepreneurs are, right? They could be, running energy bar companies in Bend or restaurants in Portland and all over the place.
Exactly. So in closing, I just wanted to say thank you, Nathan, Jesse, and Emily for sharing your stories about starting your own businesses and how you have met the challenges that entrepreneurs face when they're pursuing their own endeavors. For those of you who currently own your own businesses, or for those that are seeking to do so, I hope that you will leave this event tonight with a renewed sense of motivation and some inspiration. Up on the screen right now, you'll find links to help direct you to ways in which you can stay involved with the Alumni Association. Additionally, if you would like to find a duck-owned small business to support or promote your own, please do visit the link at the bottom of the screen. That's uoalumni.com/duckbizdirectory. Please check that out. It's a great resource to help support all of our small business owners, all of our ducks out there pursuing their entrepreneur endeavors. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Hope everyone has a good night and joins us for our next webinar coming up. So go Ducks.